Right, good afternoon, Matrix. It's nice to be with you again. I'm going to be doing Black Consciousness with you today. Black Consciousness is in paper 2, it's question 1, and it will always be a source-based section. So I'm going to first just quickly, briefly explain to you what Black Consciousness is, where it started, how it permeated South Africa, and then how it eventually would lead to the Soweto uprisings, and then a mass apartheid uprising in 1977. Matrix, you must bear in mind that this is the anniversary of Black Consciousness, the banning of the organizations. They were banned in 1977, so it's been 40 years this year that Black Consciousness was banned, and in that context we need to look at the impact that Steve Biko and Black Consciousness had on South Africa. So we start off, you can see on my slide, it says there, Steve Biko, Black Consciousness and the Soweto Uprisings. You'll see a picture of him as well. That is Steve Biko. It all started when Steve Biko went to Natal University as a young medical student. And while he was there, he met a group called NUSAS, which is the National Union of South African Students. It was an organization where he could get involved in. It was against apartheid and segregated laws. It was against separate universities for black and colored, Indian and white people. And while he was involved in this movement, he became very disillusioned with the fact that black people could join the movement but couldn't become leaders. And he said that he doesn't understand why white people need to fight for black people when they don't know what it feels like to be black. He said it's very good and well if you're a white person, you're fighting for black people, but you don't live in the homelands, you don't live in the townships, you get in your car at the end of the day, you don't need a passbook. So he was very much for organizations to form, or black people to form their own organizations separate from white people, and for black people to not be an appendage on white society. He wanted black leaders to form their own organizations, and he wanted black people to realize their worth and that they can be leaders and that they can they don't have to be dependent on white South Africa. So as a result, he will pull away from NUSAS and he will form his own organization called Sasso. Okay, so I just quickly want to go through that slide with you, and then I'm going to start working in front of me, and I'll work with you guys. I just want to go to my first slide and show you what we've looked at. I said, Steve Biko was a medical student at Natal University. He joined a student organization called NUSAS, which I spoke to you guys about, the National Union of South African Students. But he was unhappy. He was happy that black students could join the organization, but not advance to leadership. So he said it was cool that black people could join the organization, but he was unhappy that they couldn't become leaders. And then he also believed that white people could not fight for black students as they did not know how it felt to be black. So if you look over here, what I've done is, these are the various organizations. I've said, okay, fine. If this is NUSAS, and it's in the white universities, it's the National Union of South African Students, it's a liberal organization. Steve Biko won't be happy with this because he believes that black people should fight for themselves. So he will form his own organization called Sasso, okay? And that would be the South African Students Movement, Students Organization. Okay, so this is what he forms. Okay, so he forms, from that he forms Sasso. And while Sasso was formed, he came up with the term Black Consciousness. Okay, so now we need to look at what that term Black Consciousness means. Okay, so Black Consciousness means that black students and black people need to take the helm of their struggle, and that they should not be reliant on white people at all. He believes that black South Africa needs to be separate so that they can gain pride in themselves. So it's got black pride in it, and that should ring a little bell in your head. It reminds you of the power movements. And the power movements did affect Steve Biko. Remember the power movements from America. It definitely had an impact on him. He believed that black South Africans need to get rid of the chains of white oppression. And just now you're going to see on my slide that he said the biggest tool that white South Africa has is the minds of the black people. So he believed that white people give them an inferiority complex, and that the black man has to get rid of that inferiority complex first before he can take his own destiny. So he believed that black consciousness, this pride and this black man, you're on your own and you shouldn't be an appendage in white society. You shouldn't be dependent on white society. You should take the helm of your own struggle. That is going to permeate into all of the groups. Okay, so if we go to my next slide, I just quickly want to go through what black consciousness is. Okay, just again, I see there's a question here. Who is Steve Biko? Steve Biko, again, was a medical student at Natal University. And while he was there, he got in contact with NUSAS, a white students organization that fought for segregation in universities. But they weren't happy. He wasn't happy with the fact that white students were fighting for black students. He felt that that just couldn't be in South Africa because they didn't know what it felt like to be black. So he will break away and form his own organization called Sasso. And that will permeate into other organizations in South Africa. You can see here I've said Biko from NUSAS formed his own organization called Sasso, the South African Students Organization. And Sasso believes in black consciousness. And remember, black consciousness for him it's a state of mind, it's a way of life. The black man must reject all systems that make him feel like a foreigner and reduce his human dignity. The black man must build up his own value system, define himself and not be defined by the white man. And the black man must stand proudly and shake off any psychological oppression. It says sorry about that. Any psychological oppression. And you can see there that I've got a quote there from him, the most powerful weapon of the oppressor is in the minds of the oppressed. So he really believes that the black man has to become proud of himself first, to realize that he can take his own struggle, okay, and be the leader of his own struggle, and then from there we can reach democracy. So I've looked at the first organization first, which is the South African Students Organization. Remember, he was involved in NUSAS, which is a political organization in white universities. He's not happy with this because he says that white students can't fight for black students, so he'll form his own organization called Sasso. Okay, this is just for the varsity students. Okay. So all those that are finished with high school and in universities.